What's up, folks? It is once again the Doctor, Dr. Remy LeBeau, coming at you from the X Lair. Today, I have a cure for your sickness, the sickness you've been enduring for way too long, related to your absolute lack of exposure to the most amazing X-Men statues ever created. Today, I have a treatment for you in the form of Miss Lorna Dane, otherwise known as Polaris. Polaris. She has been revealed to be the daughter of Magneto. She has been around for a while. I can't exactly say when her first appearance was. I should probably look into that. But she's been around for a while. She's actually one of the good folk. I don't think she was ever a villain. Of course, I might be wrong about that. In the House of M storyline, which was the alternate dimension storyline in which the Scarlet Witch changed reality so that mutants were actually revered in society as sort of the dominant species. And in that story, and Magneto was sort of like the president or the king of the world or something along those lines. In that storyline, um, she uh, she held a high position. Obviously, she was the daughter of Magneto, but she also, I think she might have been bad. I think there might have been some bad qualities to her character in that storyline. That was a great storyline, by the way. I highly recommend it. House of M. Read that thing. Awesome. Um, she has a sordid history with several characters. Um, One of my favorite, of course, being Havoc. Havoc, Alex Summers, the brother of Cyclops, who we all know to be Scott Summers. Um, Her and Polaris and Havoc have a history, and they were featured prominently together in XFactor, the second sort of version of XFactor, which was still XFactor of the 90s, which is still the same ongoing series of the 80s and the 90s, but like changed the lineup of the characters during the mutant genesis that occurred when Jim Lee and Chris Claremont started X-Men #1, um, and it's thus X Factor, who was originally the original five X-Men, sort of also evolved to be Polaris, Havoc, Multiple Men, Guido, Ron Sinclair, Quicksilver was in there, and there might have been some other folks. Quicksilver actually winds up being her brother, so that's an interesting lineup. That's an interesting situation that I hadn't really thought about, but I don't think it was really explored much in that comic. Peter David wrote that, and then he continued writing it. And Peter David has been writing X Factor to this day. Obviously there was a break for the series, but then it picked up again. Right now it's May of 2013. Unfortunately, X Factor has been canceled again, but I have a feeling it'll eventually be back, and hopefully Peter David will be at the helm. Just a quick side note: Peter David had a stroke maybe like 3 months ago. If for whatever reason, if by whatever chance Mr. David happens to watch this video, Mr. David, you are awesome writer, just a legend amongst X-Men fans. So I wish you the very best in your recovery, and I hope you continue telling great stories and touching people's lives in the way you have, in such profound ways. Thank you for that. I'm rooting for you, my friend. I'm rooting for you. Anyway, all right, back to the statue and Polaris. Yeah, once the sort of the '90s X Factor kind of like dissipated in popularity and eventually got canceled. I forget what happened to her. I know she eventually went into the Uncanny X-Men, the regular lineup, and actually her and Iceman had a thing going, and then there was like a love triangle between her, Iceman, and Havoc, um, which was kind of fun and interesting. And then there was like this interesting storyline in which some of the X-Men were sent to the Shi'ar Empire because Havoc's brother, Gabriel Summers, the third Summers brother, introduced in Deadly Genesis. I won't go into the origin, but he uh, took over the Shi'ar Empire and did all sorts of horrible things. And Havoc and her and Rachel Summers, and who else? Oh, Warpath. They all wound up going to space, and they were actually trapped in space for a long time. Um, I think Havoc and Polaris. I think Warpath might have come back earlier. I might be wrong about that because like the I guess the Stargates or whatever it is that allowed travel from the Shi'ards part of the universe to the Earth part of the universe were destroyed, and so it was they couldn't get back, and then it was just a big ordeal getting them back, and they finally got back. But actually, so this is a cover from a War of Kings um, issue, which was like a big crossover in the Marvel universe. And you can see this is essentially the statue you're seeing here to some extent. Like this statue was based on this design here, and it takes place, at least this design, having Polaris back into her original costume, um, takes place in space, um, within this whole sort of big ordeal that was going on in regards to all sorts of power plays amongst the various intergalactic empires. The Shi'ar, I think the Kree were involved. The Skrull. I'm assuming. I didn't read that stuff, so I don't know. All right, well, let's talk about the statue itself now that we know where the design came from. This statue is number 39 of 700. It was produced in 2011, so that's 2 years ago. And, of course, sculpted by Mr. Mike Cusinelli, the master of the female form, who sculpted Dazzler back here, my beautiful Dazzler, and the recent Storm statue, which the Punk Storm statue and the modern version that I have yet to feature are based were variants of a statue that but Mr. Cusinelli also sculpted. He's just fantastic, and he did a great job on this statue. I really like this sort of elevated, skinny base they made. I think it helps to sort of make room in the collection, displays, which is nice, and it's got like an elegant quality to it. And then beyond that, the sculpt is obviously a very beautiful female form. You can see a lot of close-ups of it on my blog. And it basically captures like this very cool costume that she has, which is the original costume of Polaris, which she, again, recently took on again, but now has changed again, given that she's actually gone back to XFactor. And right now, in May of 2013, she's part of the XFactor lineup. But Havoc is not. Havoc left, and Havoc is now leading the Uncanny Avengers. Given that that X Factor has been canceled, maybe she'll wind up in Uncanny Avengers. That would be interesting. But some people are hoping that she gets sent to the Uncanny X-Men, where Cyclops and Magneto are having that little revolution. That actually might be an interesting placement for her as well. I'm interested to see where she's going to wind up. Anyway, so again, like this is a very simple statue as far as like the paint goes. Most of the painted elements are like the metallic green. Beautiful choice. Looks great on the statue. I love that it's mostly green. It's really nice. You have like the very cool boots that she wears with like all sorts of crisscross straps. And some like dark shading there, which is very nice, done in a very elegant and very nice way. And then beyond that, you've got like straight sort of leggings or something that go up to her thighs, and then like the one piece sort of interesting kind of weird like top that she has that connects her shoulders and goes up her neck, and then you can't really see it, but she's got like this little skull above her cleavage. And that's actually one of the original sort of costume elements that Randy Bowen, when this statue was being released, had not, I guess, had Mike Cusinelli include in it, but a lot of fans online asked him to include it. He's very responsive to fans, so it was actually really great. It's just another great example of how much Randy Bowen is willing to listen to the fans and take feedback from them and actually apply them to the statues, which is fantastic. I love that about him. He's really great in that regard. The main place to interact with him is statuemarvels.com. That's usually where he hangs out and kind of asks people for opinions on statues that are coming out. Maybe like he posts polls about certain elements or whatnot in regards to you know the elements that have not been that he hasn't made a final decision on. So if you're interested in interacting with the dude and getting some sort of and giving him some feedback on some of the upcoming statues, statuemarvels.com is the place to do it. Um, okay, so I really like the arm sort of interesting sort of armband things that she has done really well as well. Obviously, like I said, the body sculpt is flawless. I mean, it's a Mike Cusinelli sculpt, so it doesn't make sense that it wouldn't be flawless. And then, of course, you've got the beautiful face. I mean, she's just gorgeous. The features are flawless, painted in an exceptional way. And then she's got that really interesting sort of like headpiece. And then beyond that, the beautiful flowing green hair, which is just signature Lorna hair, which has to be green. And Mike Cusinelli does such a great job of making the hair full and flowing and dynamic and just beautiful and just adds so much to the overall effect of the statue. Just looks great. And then of course you've got this great cape. Capes are actually also difficult to sculpt. They require a lot of time and attention. And of course Mr. Cusinelli didn't disappoint. He just put in a lot of attention into it. It's got a flowing type of quality. Um, Again, trying to I think capture this sort of state for her. She's got magnetic powers just like Magneto, so she's obviously uh, in the midst of using those powers here and also in the statue, which is nice, very nice. He actually decided to paint in pupils with her, and she's got green eyes, consistent with everything else, which is interesting because given that she's using her powers and the source, like the reference art, has her eyes whited out. It's an interesting choice that at least Mike Cusinelli decided to put in the pupils. I maybe would have left them out, but they did such a good job on them that I've never really thought about it, and it doesn't bother me at all. It looks great, and there's a lot of people online, or I guess a lot of people that collect Bowen statues in general, and maybe just statues in general, that like pupils in their statues, even their superhero statues. I like them without pupils because it just kind of captures somewhat of the powerful quality of the characters we're dealing with. So, of course, it's a matter of preference, and everybody has theirs. And for me, I'm not such a stickler for these things, so it's not a make or break situation for me. So whatever. One slight sort of thing that people that have gotten the statue have had a problem with is like the slight sort of somewhat lean that she has. I guess people feel that there's like a lean to her. I'm okay with the lean. It just kind of adds more style and more attitude to her. But I guess it does make her a little bit unstable, and that can be a problem depending on how you display her. So, of course, for those that have a problem with it, I respect that. And for those that don't have her, you should know, she's got a slight lean. It's not that big of a deal. Like here, I'm shaking her, she's not falling. I'm shaking her, she's not falling. So it's not like she's gonna just fall over just because she's completely, just she has the propensity to do that. It's you have to have a very sort of aggressive context in which things get um, sh- things shake a lot in order to have her fall. I think so. I wouldn't be too worried about that if you don't necessarily care about the design effect of the lean. Um, then I would get her. I don't think that should be a determining factor of the decision to get her or not. So again, she's like 2 years old. There aren't any other Polaris statues out there. If you're a fan of the character, this is a great statue of her, and she looks great with Havoc. Eventually, I'll do like a couples video, and I'll have them together, and that'll look cool. Um, so, I mean, if you're a fan of Lauren, she's also really good. She also works really well with like Magneto back here. You see Magneto, the new action Magneto, and the new Scarlet Witch, and you can maybe throw Quicksilver in there just to kind of have the whole Lencher family together. That would actually work really nicely. There was actually a really cool issue of XFactor maybe in the last, I don't know, 10 months or so, that finally revealed her origin. She always thought that she had killed her parents, um, but I'm pretty sure I forget exactly what. I have to go back and read it again, but I think Magneto killed him or something. No, he didn't kill him. Something happened. Oh no. She thought Magneto killed her parents. It turns out Magneto is her father. I don't remember if that was revealed or not, but it was actually her. She killed her parents when her powers manifested and they were on this airplane, and it made the airplane go down, and she survived. It was a really cool story. It was like it just came out of left field. We didn't really know that we were finally going to get this sort of origin story for Polaris, and we did, and it was really cool. And I'm happy to have read it, and I hope you guys read it as well if you guys like the character. All right, folks. Well, that's enough for this beautiful statue. She's definitely beautiful. I have her actually by herself in a detolf because I don't. She doesn't really fit in anywhere else. As for me, maybe she does for other people, but I have her displayed with this cover, and she looks great with it. I love that it's mostly green. It's just such a nice sort of like look and effect, and just wonderful. So again, thank you for checking out my blog. That's X-Men Statues of Future Past.blogspot.com. Thank you for checking out my videos on YouTube, which is my channel is Dr. Remy LeBeau's X-Lair. And as always, X in the box because ain't nobody checking me. I'll catch you all very soon. Thank you again and take care. Bye bye.